So let me just start the Design Studio tool. So it's a simple client, desktop client tool you can install in your machine, similar to Excel dashboard or other SAP BO tools you can install. Okay, so this credentials, what it is asking is, uh, it is regarding the SAP BI platform, or you would have seen the launchpad where you have all the repository where you store your uh, SAP BO files. So it is the credentials for that one. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. So first of all, whenever you use any reporting tool, so first thing is regarding the data, like what are the backend systems to which we can connect, and then what are the ways in which we need to connect. So here what you need to do is, if you go to tools, you have something called preferences. So what important thing in this preferences is, first thing is this preferred startup mode. It's just that whatever mode you prefer, so what will happen is it will automatically try to connect to that system. So if I say BI platform, so it will create a credential window for the BI platform. So it will have the username, password, and the your BI platform URL. If you say that okay SAP HANA, so then it will create a credential window accordingly. It will have system number, client name, client number. So accordingly it creates a credential window. So it understands that okay you want to connect to that systems. So accordingly it will have the credential window. So that is the only difference between the various different mode. And you can have, if you don't want to connect to any system, you can have simply the local mode. And once you have created the local mode application, you can migrate it to your BI platform anytime. So generally these two are used mostly, local mode and BI platform mode mostly. Okay. And then if you go to connection, backend connections, so these are the various three types of connections which are available for usage. So generally Design Studio divides your backend system into three categories: BW system, HANA system, and universe. Okay, so if you have some Bex query, InfoCube, like that one, so you can connect to that system. They will be listed under this SAP BW connection. Then if you have SAP HANA system and you connect it to your SAP BI platform, so then whatever all the BI HANA connections or HANA views they are available, they will be listed under SAP HANA connection. And then the last one is the relational universe. So whatever all the relational universes are there, they will be displayed in the relational universe. Okay, so depending upon your backend system, whatever you are using, you can get it here. So now obviously the question which will come in, like all these three are SAP, whether it's BW, SAP HANA or Universe, they all are SAP things. So what will be the method or the way if we connect, if we have some non-SAP backend system, something uh, something such as maybe Oracle server, SQL server, MS Access, or anything like that. Okay, so in that case, what we need to do? So if you have a non-SAP source, what you need to do is you need to create a universe. Okay, and then via that universe, it will be listed down here. So technically, if you speak, you don't have any limitation. You can connect to any of the data source. If you have a BW system, you can directly see here. If you have a HANA system, you can directly listed here. If you have maybe let's say Oracle server, then what you need to do is you need to create a universe on top of that Oracle server, and then it will be listed here. So the only difference is if you have a SAP system, you can directly connect. If you have a non-SAP system, you need to go one more extra step. That is your SAP universe you need to create. Okay, so generally this is how we use. Then there is not much. All other things are simple. It's not very much. So how you create a new application. So when you click on application, new application will create, and you have to give the name. So let's say if I give okay, then what is this template category? Desktop, browser, iPad, and iPhone. So what actually it means is uh, whatever category you will choose, it will create the layout as per that screen. So since you have different type of aspect ratio for the desktop, iPad, and iPhone, so so what it does it, whatever you choose, if I choose desktop browser, so my canvas or my layout will be best suited for that screen. So it's not that if you create uh, something like target template, if you choose desktop browser, so it doesn't mean that you will not be able to view for iPad or iPhone. It's just that it will be best suited for this one. So you would have seen if I create something on a desktop, so when I view it on mobile, it will not best fit on that one. You will have to do the scrolling and all these things. So it will be ideally suited for that one. That is the only thing. Otherwise, it's not that you can view that same application on all the three interchangeably. But the only difference will be whatever you select, that will be best for that one. Okay, so generally we choose desktop browser. Okay. then you will have different type of templates available, which helps you to create application, and you don't need to create an application from the scratch. So in that scenarios, they help. But when you are learning starting, so in that moment, it's better to use the blank. And also if you go back, depending upon what you have chosen, the templates will also change. So if you see, if I select iPad, I have little less templates. So similarly, if you choose iPhone, you will have few less. Okay. So let's say if I choose a blank, okay. So this is an empty screen which comes. So now whenever you connect to any data uh, connection you have created, you have been connected to any system, the next thing which you need is you need to create a data source. So what is actually data source? So data source is actually choosing a specific table, a view, a info cubes, maybe a back query out of the backend system. Because in connection step, what you have done is you have connected to the whole system. Okay, so your system might have 10 tables, 20 tables, 50 tables, n number of views, or some n number of back cubes, back queries. So what you need to do is, in this step, you have to choose the connection, and from that connection, what is the data source? Let me be the HANA view, relational universe, or Bex info cube. So first of all, I need to choose the connection. What is the connection I want to connect? Let's say I want to I connected to that system. Then these are the different views available. Okay, so under all the packages, we have different views. So maybe let's say we select any views. So we have chosen a specific view for that connection. Now there is one more step we need to do. That is this edit initial view. So what this do is, in this step actually what we need to do is, what is the columns or dimensions and key figures which we need for our reporting purpose. Because what happens is, whenever you view any real-time table or something like that, it will have plenty of columns, maybe 20, 30 and 50, even that is very common. So you will not require all of them. They will be used for different purposes. So unnecessarily, if you see, if you did not have this option, so what will happen is, whenever you will load the data source or whenever you will open your report, what will happen is, all the 50 columns, 20 columns, 30 columns, whatever will be present for a table, they will be pulled, which will take time, which will consume memory, and which will delay your report opening. So in this edit initial view, what we do is we choose only those columns which are useful for us. So let's say I am interested in ordered quantity. I don't want this, and vendor name, let's say these two things I want. Okay. So what I have done is, so in layman term, if I say this step, what it does, it just creates a subset of that table view, Bex query, or so whatever, let's say 20 columns are there, we choose only those columns which are required for us, so that our application does not take time to load the application. It unnecessarily does not load those columns which are not required for our reporting purpose. Okay, so and then you can create again, depending upon your usage, you can create n number of data sources. So it's not that you can create only one, you can again do the same thing and create multiple data sources. Okay. So this is a little bit about data sources. There are few more things what we do with data source, we will tell later. So for actually what right now I am doing is I am just covering basic things. So maybe after 2 sessions I will take the few advanced topics. So there will be few things which you will feel that okay, it is not is it fully completed or not completed. So we will have it. Okay. So that is more about how you connect to data system and backend system. So once you have established the connections, the things comes is how to use the different components. Okay. Actually, I forgot to tell you one thing. I guess Madhukar was taking your Webby sessions. So actually, due to some busyness and some time coordination, he did not get the time. So probably once we are done with this tool in another 4 or 5 sessions, he will take the remaining sessions of a Webby. So don't worry, that is not that the Webby session has finished. He was telling me, he told me, I forgot to tell you. We will take that session remaining maybe after this 4 or 5 sessions for this SAP Design Studio and Lumira. So these two things, Design Studio and Lumira, we will take. I will take. Okay. So now we come to the various components. First one is the chart. Okay, so maybe if you would have used any other reporting tool like Webby or Excelsius, so whenever you add any component, plugins is something very advanced thing. You don't need anything for HANA views or plugins. It's not required. You can simply uh, use that one. This simple HANA connectivity or universe or anything. You just connect to your BI platform. It will list you all the available views, mix cubes and universe available on that BI platform. Okay. So this is your chart. So as I was telling you, whenever you add any component on your canvas, it will ask to connect to a data source. Okay. So these are the properties where you do all these manipulations. So in this one we are taking the data from HANA views, but you can use it from different views, universe, HANA views, Vex info view. That's what I was telling you. You can add the data source. Right now I'm using HANA. So if you can see, it's the name is HANA user analytical view order details. Okay. But it doesn't make any difference. You can use any views, calculation views, analytical, everything, and it will not. From the usage perspective, you will not have any difference. Whether you use analytical view, calculation view, Bex info cube, universe, anything, it's all are same. BW, that Bex connections were there. If you go, if you choose that Bex connection, like OLAP Bex, if I choose, okay. So it has connection is not there. Some issue with the, I think, Bex info VW system. Let me check. But maybe that BW system, actually there was some issue in that one, that's why it's not connecting, but procedure will be same. I will check and maybe I'll let you know tomorrow. But it's the same thing. You just need to select the connection, you need to select the specific views or anything. Okay. So once you add the chart, first and foremost thing is to map to a data source. So let's say if we map to data source. Okay, so you will see it is displaying the different type of vendors and their corresponding quantity orders. But one thing, if you see, it is displaying the value of measures, it is displaying on the x-axis. If you see quantity order on this is x-axis, but this is not something or generally which you do on the x-axis. X-axis is generally meant for displaying the dimensions. So if how do we swap this one is, you will have something called swap axis. Now if you see all the different vendors displayed on the x-axis, which is something which you do in your real time also, which is more of a generic thing. Somehow I don't know why Design Studio, this thing is a little bit weird. Like by default, whenever you will map any data source, it will display measures on the x-axis. One way is you can manipulate this one. You can remove the rows to here and measures to here. Then it will show properly in graph, but then it will not show properly for other components. So generally what we do is we modify this one. Okay. So your chart, then we have few different properties or important things what we need to do. First thing is data selection. So what data selection do is, let's say I have used two columns, okay, quoted price and quantity ordered. So what data selection does it? It allows me to choose some specific data. Okay. So I can say that, okay, maybe because I can say that, okay, I need only quantity ordered. Okay, so I can create a quantity ordered selection. So whatever I selected, that will be displayed on the chart only. Okay, then I say that I need only quoted price. So it will display only quoted price. So this is something which is I can do. Then I can, in fact, let's say if I say quantity order, I can choose some specific dimensions also. Like I want only for, let's say, these things. Okay, so I can choose like that one only. So it is displaying only few of the dimensions, but mostly we don't use for the dimension selection. So I guess you would be familiar with dimension selection. It's like different whatever the properties of any table, they are called as dimensions, like name, country, category, and all these things. And Okay, so what you need to do is selection criteria. What it tells is whatever dimensions or measure you select, it will be displayed. So whatever is highlighted, that will be displayed to there. Okay, so you can say anything, whatever you want to choose. So now the question comes is that, okay, if I don't want this order, let's say I only want quantity ordered, I don't want quoted price. So rather than doing this, what I can do is I can simply go and in my chart I can remove that one. Okay, if I don't need quoted price from in my chart, then rather than having it here and then removing it via data selection, will it not be better that I simply remove it? So the reason is like uh, it becomes handy because you might require only quantity ordered, but maybe another graph will be there or another table will be there which will require this quoted price. Okay, so what you will, if you create a single data source with only quantity ordered, so what will happen is if you have another graph which requires, let's say, quoted price, so in that case what will happen is you have to create one more data source which will use quoted price. So just to avoid it, two data source, because the data source loading takes time. The most of the maximum time is taken by this one. So what you can do is, so it's just for the reusability data source, because this will not require too much time, this calculation that okay I only need order quantity. But to have two data source, one with the measure quantity ordered and one with the measure ordered quantity or ordered quoted price, that will take much time. So our approach should be always to make sure that we use as less as data source possible with using different techniques that we will see later, and reuse the data source. Okay, so this data selection comes handy when we want to reuse any of the data source. Then next thing is important thing is this column. By default, whenever you will use any of the chart, so what it will use it will display the column chart. But it might be that you need to display not column chart, maybe bar chart, line chart, pie chart. So you can change it anything. Let's say I want to change it to line chart. I can change it. If I want to change it to pie chart or anything, if I want, I can change it. I want to bar chart. So depending upon my usage, I can change it. So it's not that we have some specific chart only. We have n number of charts available. If you see bar is stacked. So depending upon what you are displaying, you have to choose. Let's say if I want to choose bar combination, it will throw me an error because I don't have two measures. Okay, I have hidden one measure, so that's why it's not throwing an error. If I say bar dual axis, so it will give me an error that I need to have at least two measures. So it's not that you can convert into any of the type, but most of the types you can convert depending upon what all the things you are displaying. If you have one measures, so you can change it to simple charts like column, line, pie, bar. If you have more than one columns, you can, or you can say if you have more than one measures, then you can change accordingly. So like that one, you will have different type of charts formatting. Okay. Then you have one thing this called conditional formatting. So conditional formatting, what it does, it allows you to change the color, set some color coding. So what will happen is whenever you, whatever value you are displaying, if it goes beyond anything, it will be displayed in that color, or if it goes beyond something, it will again be displayed into some color. Okay. Let's say I want that if something goes beyond 5,000, so if something goes, let's say beyond 5,000, it's good for me. So what I will create a, and if something goes very low, is less than, let's say 3,000, so I want into maybe let's say red color. So few of the values are, so let's say make it 2,000, so that not all values are okay. So you can see whatever all the values which are more than 5,000 are displayed in green, and whatever are less than 2,000 they are displayed in red. Okay. So if you execute your application, okay, so this is 1437, which is less than 2,000. This is 2171, which is more than 2,000, but it is not even more than 5,000, so it is kept as normal. Similarly, so whatever values less than 2,000 are in red, whatever values more than 5,000 are green. So what happens, advantage of this thing is like user directly sees that okay, three values are in bad, two values are good. So it's just one way to catch the attention of the user directly, rather than he goes, points the mouse, finds the value. So here what will happen is as soon as the application launch, he can see directly two values are good, five values are average, so, and three values are something on which I need to concern. So you can directly go and do the needful. Okay, so it's one way to make user catch the information easily. That's it. So these are the places where we use the conditional formatting. So this is mostly the basic things, and this is called the onSelect event. So this is the place where you will do all the JavaScripting. So maybe you would be familiar or not. Design Studio uses JavaScripting code if you want to perform something dynamically. So if you on click, on selection or anything, if you want to perform, you can do that with the help of this JavaScripting code. So this that I will cover later. Right now, don't worry too much how it we do and all these things. It's just that this is something called I will say the most important part of the Design Studio. Else it is simple. If you don't use JavaScript, it's a very simple thing. It's not something special. The specialty of or the unique thing about this tool itself is that. So every component will have this on select. It might be on select, on click, on apply. Name might be different, but thing is same. Okay, so this is more about your charts. Then the next is cross tab. So generally these are the two things which you will use for displaying the information. Okay, again, whenever you add anything, you have to map it to a data source. Okay, so you will map and it will display you the information. So if you want to see the difference between these two things, chart and cross tab, so it's very common, you would have seen in real life also. If you have a little less information, then you go for chart. But if you have a very detailed information, or you have more than 5-6 columns, so in that case you go for cross tab. So generally detailed information, cross tab, and very aggregated information or less information, you go for chart. You cannot go for chart if you have, let's say, 50 row columns, 50 rows, because they will be too much consistent. User will not be able to get the information easily. He need to spend a lot of time to get the information. So in that case, what we do is we provide him cross tab. So that is general basic ethics or basic things which we need to consider when we use any of the tool. Okay. Then we have this dimension filter. So dimension filter is, as the name itself suggests, it is used to filter some of the dimension values. Okay. So whatever its name suggests itself is a little bit explanatory. Let's say if I copy the data source, okay, and okay, so first thing is you need to map it to a data source. Let's say I mapped it to data source 1. Then you have to specify that on which dimension you need to apply. Okay, so let's say I want to apply for vendor name. Okay, so I execute it. I will say, let's say I want these few things. I applied. So this chart is changing, but this cross tab is not changing, because I have mapped this cross tab to data source 2 and this to data source 1. Okay, but when I change this filter, only this chart is changing because this is mapped to DS1. So whatever data source you will map, it will change that one only. Okay, so what I need to do if I want to make sure, or my requirement is that if I change this dimension filter, my chart needs to be changed as well as cross tab also needs to be changed. So for that one, you need to use target data source. Target data source is whatever data source you will connect, it will filter that data source implicitly. It says implicit behavior or default behavior. But other than that, if you want that, okay, some other data source, they also need to be filtered. So for that one, you need to specify. So if you have 10 data source, they all will be listed here, apart from the data source to which it is mapped. So if it is mapped to data source 1, so that will not be listed here because that anyway it will filter. Apart from that, if you want, you can select, it will filter you. Okay. So now if I filter, it should filter both of the values, chart as well as cross tab. Okay. So my chart is filtered as well as cross tab. If you want to filter more than one component or precisely more than one data source, you need to mention the remaining data source in target data source. Okay, so this is one of the very important component which will use for this, giving user a functionality of filtering the data, but very simple, not much to worry. Then you don't have anything important here, it's just like simple. It's fine. So that's how you use dimension filter. Then you have this filter line. Okay, but you would have seen that you have to specify a specific dimension or a column name on which you need to apply that filter. Okay, but let's say if I want that, okay, this dimension filter to be used for any other dimension, so that I cannot do. I have to specify that, okay, I need to use it for vendor name or maybe country, category, whatever. But only at a, it can be made to only one of the dimensions. Okay. Now if you go to this filter line, let's say if I map to data source 1. Now filter line actually does not have that boundation that you need to bind it to any specific column. If you see, you can choose at runtime what is the dimension on which you need to apply filter. Let's say I want to apply filter for vendor name. So I choose few of them. Okay. Then if I say I need to product ID, so the advantage is I can choose any of the dimension as per my requirement at runtime. So it does not have that limitation like dimension filter that I can only bind it to vendor name. If you see here, I can only select vendor name. I cannot use any other dimension the filter. But in filter line, I can use anything. I can remove anything. Let's say I don't want product ID or vendor name. I can remove vendor name. I will have product ID this only. I can remove, bring anything. So I can play with all the dimensions at runtime with this filter line. But you will see again it is also filtering only chart, not cross tab. This is because it has got one of the biggest disadvantage that it does not have target data source concept. So whenever you select any of the filter line, it will map only to one data source. You cannot map it to more than one. So you can say it is kind of one of the limitation. So both of these have one limitation as well as their working is different. So if you have a requirement where you have only one data source on which you need to apply a filter, so in that case you can go for filter line. Okay. Then the third one is filter panel. Here DS1, and let's say my target data source is DS2. This is, if you see, it is a subset, superset of these two things. It takes the both the advantages and removes the disadvantages. So I can select any of the vendor name at runtime. Okay. Then I can change order number. Okay. So I can choose anything. So it takes the advantage of this dimension filter that it has a target data source concept, and it takes the advantage of filter line that you don't have to choose any one dimension. You can choose any of the dimension to do as a filter at runtime. So this, you can say, this filter panel is a kind of a superset of these two things. So the thing which you will feel is that this is something which will be mostly used. Okay, but actually it's not that. Mostly dimension filter, this is the thing which will be used in most of the cases. Reason being, this thing is not required because in most of the scenarios, real-time application when we will create, this will be required to filter the data source more than one. You will require, in most of the scenarios, whenever you click any dimension filter, filter line, any of the filter, you will be required to filter more than one data source, which this filter line cannot cater because it can be mapped to any one of them. So that's why it's not used too much. Now if I come to this filter panel, this is not used in most of the scenarios because of its size or the space it consumes. Just a minute. Because in real time when you will build the application, so believe me, space will be of a very much concern. You will not have that flexibility that you can consume that much amount of space, which is almost equal to your 1/4 in just I will say for displaying that filter panel. So this had a biggest advantage or disadvantage I will say is that it consumes too much of space. So that is also not preferred for use. Mostly this dimension filter will be preferred. So maybe if I want to have a, let's say my requirement is that I might require a vendor name as well as product ID. So what I will do, I will have one more dimension filter. Okay, that I will map and target data source 2, and I will select the object, maybe product ID. So rather than consuming that much amount of space, my work will be done with only these two things. That's why we generally prefer to use dimension filter. So it's not that they are not used, but most of the scenarios I'm telling you. I told you how to use all these three, but mostly we will prefer this one. Okay. Then we have this geo maps that we will see later. Then we have this navigation panel. So navigation panel, what it does, what we did in the edit initial view, the same thing this navigation panel does. You can bring objects, you can remove objects. So what it does, let's say I want to product ID. So I need to product ID. I can select. Okay, so actually this graph is a little less small, so it's not showing. So it's most, or let's say I want to remove vendor name, I can remove. It's only bring product ID. So it's mostly used to bring the objects at runtime. Anything. I don't want product ID. I will remove that one. I will, let's say I want order date. Just a minute, it's hanged actually. So like that one you can choose different dimensions, bring here, you can apply the filter. Let's say you don't want all the members, you can filter the members. Okay, so like these type of different thing at runtime you can do. So for this purpose we use this navigation panel. Okay, so what you can do is you can just go through the today's session, see the things whatever we have covered, almost all the analytic component other than geomaps, and in the tomorrow's session we can have a discussion, like if you have any issues, anything, if you feel that any question or anything, any doubt or any issue which you face when you try to do it yourself. Okay, so fine, then we will connect tomorrow at the same time. So I hope you would have get the things to much extent, if not fully. Obviously you will not get full thing, but I hope almost 70 to 80% things I hope you would have got it, and when you try to do the things yourself, probably you will get it more. Okay, and then even then if you have some doubt, we will connect tomorrow at the same time, and we will try to see if any issue is there. Okay. So, okay, thanks. Have a nice day. It was nice to have with you, and we will connect same time tomorrow. Okay. And bye. Bye everybody then.
Reconnect.